While I was in London playing with dinosaurs, Farmington were busy planning their future. They already know what their next big attraction is going to be and where. They just need to lay some groundwork for that first. This means that there is a lovely little spot for something flat and spinny. Hello you guys, welcome back to Planet Coaster 2, welcome back to Farmington Field. As always, thank you for coming along for the ride. And this is going to be one of those short episodes because, as you may have already seen, I've been playing with dinosaurs. And it's actually a really good game. If you want to go and see how that went and the day that Frontier invited me to, then the videos are available. However, in the meantime, we are building a theme park out of a farm, or a former farm, shall we say. The farm was sold to a theme park operator, and we're now building something akin to Alton Towers. This then is what we spent the last couple of episodes doing. It's our pirate area, and it really does percolate well. I have come back in and I'm like, I love this area. Guys, by the way, thank you so much for your suggestions on the trim here. I've got a couple of them to try out, so I really do appreciate it. I'm going to give those a go and see whether any of those settle my ick that I've got with this with this building. But otherwise, I'm really happy with this entire area. However, onwards and upwards. As I said, this is a quick episode. I want to do something very similar to what we did here when we just put the giant frisbee, the sundial, in, and I've got a perfect space for redevelopment. Here we go. It's already fenced off. The construction fences are up. So I have been working on the attraction that's going to be coming in at the back here, that's going to finish and flesh out the back end of the park. So essentially what's going to happen is this road will need to go, and there's going to be an attraction here that will then eventually lead to whatever we end up developing around the lake. So that means that this area here is going to be a bit of a central focal point for a number of points of conversion for pathways. There's this one here, and then there's this one here, and eventually the pathway, let me actually show you. Eventually the pathway is going to come around this way, right? So that is what I'm thinking. That means I've got this little space that is just prime for absolute development. It can't be a park anymore, a playground anymore. It needs to be something a little bit more oomph related. Now, we are already running out of rides to use. We've got a couple of contenders. I want to set this ride in the early to mid 2000s. So we do have a potential for the Sky Swing. For the Screaming Swing. Sky Swing was something completely different. For the Screaming Swing, right? So that would fit quite nicely in this space. But we've done this already. We've done it. Guys, we've done it. It's a real close contender, by the way. It's a real close contender. Then we've also got the Mecha Roller. That would fit quite nicely in this space as a focal thing, but I don't think it's big enough. I don't think it's grand enough. I don't think it has enough pizzazz to it. Whatever we put in here has to be of a grand nature. Now, I want to save this one for later, the Insanity for later. I've got an idea of where I want to put that already. So that kind of leaves us with a 360 power, but that's a little bit too similar to what we're trying to do over in the space with the giant frisbee, the sundial, the I can't remember what it's called. I've literally just used the words and it's gone. So anyway, what I'm saying is, I think there's only one ride that we can use, and I think it's going to be the Forge. And I think I want to put it into this kind of position here, purely because, from a sightline perspective, it is going to dominate this area when you come through here, and then when you come through where is the path? When you come through this way, it'll dominate this bit here, and of course the other path will come through here. So that means I've got all of this space to start putting in stuff like the queue line, and maybe a bit of decorating. I don't think it's necessarily going to have a theme. At least not yet. We're going to come back and we're going to theme it. But I'm thinking that the queue line needs to live in the back end over here, maybe wrapped around this way, and then I think I'm going to wrap it back round and have the entrance sort of in that kind of area. Make use of this little plaza area. So that's what I'm thinking. Let's go and get it done, shall we? See you in a minute. So this episode really is the definition of less is more, because this is so simple but so effective. Oh my god. I don't know how it's happened, because I had creator's block when I was doing it, and suddenly it just came to life, and I'm here for it, right? There's so many fine little details in this that I didn't even consider actively doing. They just happened. So let me talk you through it. First off, the pathing. So I've put the brick down and it's a certain grey, but then when I was doing it over here, I started to layer it up and realise that that's exactly what I've done. This feels like it's been developed over time and the brick has aged, right? So we've got the newer pinker brick here, the slightly faded brick here, and then the brand new grey brick, because we do our herringbone brickwork in this grey. Actually, that's a thing that we do in modern days. So I've got this like layering going on where you've also got the gravel here as well. So you've got the gravel and the 3-colour brick. It just feels like it's been developed over time, and it's just waiting for someone to come along and just tidy it all up and make it all consistent. That's one of the little touches that I didn't even consider until I was putting the pathway down. The other one is this double fencing with the hedge in as well. So the fencing I've used before, right? So you'll recognise this fence, and you will recognise the queue line fence. This one here. I used it in Fantastica, and I used it on the on the roller coaster that we shall not argue about. It was in the steampunk area, right? So I've used this fence before, but this just fits this ride. I don't know what it is about it, and I don't know what it is that makes it work, but when you layer it up with this don't die fencing that's not a mesh fencing but is actually the other consistent fencing here, it just works. And now you're probably thinking, but this stops here, you've just got this massive gap. Well, this is a thing that Thorpe Park does with Samurai, and I don't quite know how it passes any kind of health and safety legislation, but it does. And it's because you've just got this natural barrier here. You couldn't climb over this even if you wanted to. Well, you probably could, let's be honest. But yeah, it's just this layering up. I didn't want to continue the fence around here. Like, let me show you what it looks like if I were to continue the fence around here, right? So if I were to put this in here, and this in here, it loses something. It just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't. I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. So I've kept it like that. But this is also more prevalent around this area here. So I've done some kind of like natural variation with the fences. As you can see, I've used a very specific external fence, exactly what I did in Fantastica, and then I've used this as the internal fence. So you get already a variation with your fences. So it's some kind of difference to look at. But then I swap that out along the exterior perimeter version of this queue line here, where actually you no longer use this driftwood fence, but you actually use the open fence from sort of this point onwards, and you continue this fence around. It gives this weird like variation that if you didn't point it out you wouldn't notice, but this fits way better along here when you're layering up the pathway where it goes from ride area to queue to pathway plaza area here. I don't know, it's just like a weird little technique, and I use it like quite often. I've used it in loads of places. Did I do it over here as well? No, I didn't actually. I'm not even gonna go. I'm not gonna go and searching for it. But yeah, it's just weird, right? It's just a weird way of doing paths, and I'm totally here for it. So queue line wise, I have just weaved this in and out of the existing trees. I kind of thought to myself that the park, if they're doing an Alton Towers style thing, you don't do necessarily big cattle pens. I know we have got them. In fact, we are looking at one right now. But yeah, I kind of figured that they would want to weave the path around the existing trees. So that's exactly what I've done. And I've cattle penned it around this way. And again, it's that fence variation that you've got here, just to give it a little bit of something. And then it comes around this way. Love the square paths now, by the way. It's one of the best things that Frontier ever did was the square queue lines, because look, this is just so natural. And then we come around this way and we come into the cattle pen, but I've then also made that interact with the pathway quite nicely here. I have started to lay the foundation, forgive the pun, for the pathway that's going to be coming down here. So I have just put the perimeter fence and the laurel bushes and stuff already in here. Absolutely here for it, and I have decided then that this is going to be the area where it's going to branch off and go down. I wasn't entirely sure, by the way, whether I was going to use that area for queue line and then this area for the path. But when I was playing it through, it was too close to the railway station here. We've already got it a little bit too close in the entrance area. I know it works at Pleasurewood Hills, but Pleasurewood Hills is a much smaller park with fewer visitors. So I didn't know whether I was going to put the pathway through here and have the entrance coming off of this little plaza, but actually this plaza works way better. I'm way happier with this layout and configuration than how I had it before. So yeah, I'm fully here for it. And then inside the ride area, then it's all about creating a difference with the pad, right? I whinge about the ride pads all the time. It's no secret, and I've seen a couple of techniques that you can reduce the ride pads and stuff, and it gets a little bit complicated. But anyway, what I've done here is I have just put down some of the rough stone brick wall, whatever they're called in the game anyway, just to reduce the pad slightly and give it a little bit of an obscure shape, so it's not just completely round. But I have kept the round nature by using the don't die fencing around the outside. And then all I've done here is I've just layered it out with some like nature, so some plants and some foliage and whatever. The elephant grass or the reeds really bring this to life, as do the rhododendron. Love a rhododendron. So yeah, it just brings it out a little bit with a bit of bulk. It's almost as if it's a little bit grown up and a little bit expanded over time. And then this this hedge along here then just lines it off quite nicely, and it just creates a depth that, you know, again, if I hadn't pointed it out, you wouldn't necessarily notice that depth was there. And I've taken inspiration from Thorpe Park and Alton Towers for this. They do that really well. It's this real subtle architectural design that just looks good on the eye, like this down here with all the scrubbery and the brush and whatever. It just looks good on the eye. It looks good down at peep level. It's pretty much how it should be. Added in with the don't die signs, which, by the way, I'm not using the don't die signs that we use in real life in our universe, because I kind of figured that Frontier have made all of this effort to create their own universe with the languages and the signs and that sort of stuff. I kind of figured that this would be what the equivalent of Planet Coaster World would be for our kind of signs. So I don't want it to be baked in our universe. I quite like that it's baked in their own universe. Yeah, ride, by the way, doesn't have a name. Feel free to name it. You know the drill. I need to get rid of that construction fence. That doesn't need to be there. There you go. That's a bit better. Yeah, and then just a little bit of like shrubbery and scrubbery and stuff, just a roundabout, just to give a little bit of an age, a little bit of personality going on. But yeah, I dig it, guys. Like, I really do. It fits. I mean, that tree is kind of in the way, but kind of does, right? As you're walking through here, there it is. It's dominating on the sight line. And when you've got the coaster that's there as well, that's sort of like aging and brand new, it kind of just, it works. And it doesn't need to have any more than that. Especially as I've struggled the last couple of weeks with bits where I'm not entirely happy and comfortable. It's the opposite. I actually really, come on. I'm really feeling this. Like, yes, happy days. I'm happy. There you go, guys. There it is from the top. As I said, less is more. Simple. Negative space. Works. Absolutely. It breathes. Love it. I'm here for it. Thank you for getting to the end of the episode. I really do appreciate it. As always, like, comment, subscribe, do the usual stuff. Next week is going to be a bigger one. I already know what's coming in. If you've got the park file, you'll already know what's coming in because it's now in. I will see you for the next one. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.